Hello and welcome to this episode of Breck Buzz. I'm Rick Holman, your town manager here in Breckenridge, and joining me today is our mayor, Eric Mamula, and our mayor pro tem, Wendy Wolf. Thank you both for being here today. It is December, and this is our last episode of Breck Buzz for 2016. So I thought, what a great opportunity to look back in 2016 and kind of do a year in review for this particular episode here today. And, you know, one of the highlights, I guess, for 2016 was the fact that this was an election year for the town council. And certainly both of you were successful in that endeavor.
Yeah, a couple hard-fought campaigns, and we have a great town council now. Not that we didn't before, but this is a great working group. Everybody is interested in furthering the goals of the town, and we love working with our town manager and assistant town manager and all the staff. So I'm really excited about 2017.
Yeah. Definitely, and I'll just say, Eric runs a great meeting.
Oh, too. Thank you.
Really, I mean, we are very productive. We get a lot done. We go through a lot of topics.
We do.
And so
you should come and join us because it's really super fun.
We love to see people there.
Well, and our viewers may notice a little bit different backdrop today. This being December 1st, we just came in from outside in the Blue River Plaza and we launched a zip car today. So we're located in our wonderful Welcome Center right on Main Street, and this particular part of the Welcome Center is a historic cabin that was built within that. But talk for a minute about Zipcar. We just cut the ribbon on that today.
All right, so Zipcar is a service. It's worldwide. They have about 1 million users, and we've partnered with Zipcar. We've given them 7 parking spaces in town, and in turn, they put 7 cars that you can, for a pretty small fee, you can join their service, and then whenever you want, you can reserve a car and take it. The gas is included in the fee. The hourly fee to use the car is between $9 and $12, depending on which car you get, and the annual fee is $35, and that covers everything. So you can just go and reserve a car online. You download their app and take the car, do what you need to do, and bring it back, park it in the same space. It's pretty slick. It's for guests and for locals alike, people that don't have a second car or don't have a car at all. Or if you're joining us from out of town, you can fly into the airport, shuttle to Breck, and there's always a car for you to use. And we're hoping that some of those million subscribers to Zipcar will find Breckenridge as a place they want to travel to now.
Well, also Zipcar says that they are the largest shared car company in the world, and so you'll find Zipcars in a lot of major cities, places you might go on vacation from here. Rick and I were just talking that I think in our family we might be able to drop a car, if this really succeeds, and when you think about how much it costs to own and operate a car, this whole idea is really maybe the way of the future, and so I think we're extremely lucky as a community. I think we're the first mountain town in Colorado to be able to sign on with Zipcar, and hopefully we're going to really utilize this and show that this can work, and I think we have the community that will support it.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, we're actually the first mountain resort in the United States, and we are the second ski resort because just before us, Whistler signed on with Zipcar. So yeah, we're glad they chose Breckenridge, and a lot of that has to do with, we're going to talk a little more about, obviously, when we look at the council goals, everything that we're doing, but I think the fact that they know we're trying to address congestion, and with the sharing economy now, this is certainly one of those strategies to help get cars off the road. So the fact that we've been working on that, they were attracted to Breckenridge to come here and launch this. So
and this really fits in with our sort of community goals of, the rideshare thing is great, and it just sort of fits in with how we live up here in the mountains. So we're excited.
Great. So the format, if you're okay with it, I'd like to do today. The council has your top 10 goals and objectives. And that's one of the things that as staff, we look at that, we try to focus our projects on those goals that the council has identified. And there's been some big ones this year. And so what I'd like to do is kind of go through those and give a little bit of a review and where are we at with those. And so Wendy, maybe you could start.
Okay.
One of the council's goals this year has been to look at our recreational facilities and amenities and talk to us about what's happened there, because it's quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the rec center is going to get quite a makeover, and we're excited about that. We've talked about it for a long time, how to best do this. It's a very successful rec center, and remind me the date. How old
25
is
years.
25 years, that rec center. And, it's still a very well thought through space, highly utilized, great. It's both great for our locals as well as our guests who visit here. It's highly utilized by all of our children and the schools, and so it's a hardworking facility. But we know that now it's time to think, for the next 25 years of its use, and so we've looked at lots of options of how to best expand the rec center and take care of the highest uses and demands on it. And we've come to the conclusion that the best space we have in the rec center is actually the current covered tennis court area. And if we could have that space to repurpose for several uses, that would be the most efficient way to expand the footprint of the rec center itself. But we also said we do not want to take our tennis community backward. And so where to put tennis and how to do tennis and do it right. So we've come to the conclusion that the best thing to do is to cover 2 of the existing outdoor tennis courts with a facility. And there's some great new, high-tech buildings that can be done that look nice and serve the purpose very well. We'll add to that building locker rooms, showers, restrooms, the facilities that are needed by the tennis folks. And then they'll have their own area. It'll all be, indoor and then outdoor courts around it, a new parking area for that. And so tennis will be contained in their own section. And then the rec center will be able to be repurposed in what is now the covered tennis court area, which will be just a domino effect throughout the entire building. Some of the cardio area will move over to that new area. We'll have a multi-purpose turf field, small turf field, multi-purpose inside. Which we desperately need in the early spring when we have soccer, lacrosse, and all these teams who previously were using the hardwood surface will now be able to use this multi-purpose. So those are some of the highlights. I'm sure you're thinking of some details as I was explaining that you
Well,
had.
don't forget what we've already completed with
Yeah.
the roof over the
ice rink, and
beautiful. That's
Yeah.
great.
the ice rink roof is great, and we've extended the season probably 6 weeks on either side for that. And then kids playground just north of the current rec
Yeah,
center.
I think Wendy actually cut the ribbon on
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
right.
It took me several slices.
Yeah,
But I got that.
but the rec center remodel is a big one.
Yeah.
We're probably talking $11 million over the next 3 or 4 years to complete that project, and I think everybody will be really excited as we get into this thing about our offerings and just it's time for a facelift, and more than a facelift, it is time for a repurposing of some space and bringing our awesome rec center up to 2017 standards. So
Yeah, we're excited about that one. Well, while you got the mic in your hand, Mayor.
yeah, thanks, man.
One of the other goals of the council has been, continues to be a priority in our focus on childcare.
Yeah. Childcare is a big deal in a community like this because when you live in a community like Breckenridge where things are so expensive for locals, housing is expensive, childcare is so expensive, there's a lot of families that don't have the opportunity to have one parent work and one parent take care of the kids. So we feel that it's incumbent upon the town to provide assistance in both of those things, in housing and childcare. And childcare has been a big focus of ours. The last town council purchased the building at 318 North Main, where Breck Montessori is, because they were having some issues with landlords selling the property out from under them. So they get to remain there and become a leaser up from the town. And the town's also hired a full-time person to run childcare for the town and do things like our scholarship program, which is a big deal for a lot of families in the community. So we are, we really take childcare and that whole piece that it brings to the community very seriously, and we put money into it. And I think it's, that's where you get paid dividends in the long run for this community, is keeping, number one, people here that can sustain our community and live in our community, because what we don't want is we don't want people having to move out of Breckenridge but continue to work in Breckenridge. So I think that allows some families to live here that otherwise couldn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wendy, let's talk about the Riverwalk guest experience, because that is one of the council's goals. And while some of that may not have risen to a priority this year, there are some things that we are moving forward with that's going to improve that guest experience.
Yeah, and the Riverwalk Center is, this has been an interesting year for the Riverwalk, because with the Arts District continuing to put more programming in there, we've started to see a much higher utilization of the Riverwalk overall. And so we continue to explore how best to take the Riverwalk Center to its next step. And we came very close to, deciding to go forward and expand the lobby and bring the restrooms inside this last year. But when we kind of went through everything about it, it didn't quite gel with the council. We're not quite sure we have that facility totally figured out. We're going to get there. But we decided to drop back and give that some more consideration. We're considering both the inside and the outside of the Riverwalk. There's a lot that we'll be putting in the new 4 o'clock roundabout, which will be very close to the Riverwalk Center. And then we're going to enhance the walkability around the Riverwalk and do better lighting, improve the sidewalk situation. And so the outside enhancements are also going to kind of lead to the next steps on the interior enhancements of the Riverwalk. We also have parking considerations around the Riverwalk Center and the Tiger Dredge lot, as well as up to the F lot. And so we have to consider the whole of the Riverwalk Center, and it's very key to the center of our town. We talk about the Riverwalk a lot.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about, because one thing that the council has decided this year to improve that guest experience is our ticketing system.
Right.
And we will be moving forward with that, and some of that is going to take place in this particular building.
Oh, well, and the word for that is we're going to get scanners, I guess. That's what Rob Wolf tells me is the key to all of this. Well, what does that do? So, if you purchase a ticket either online or at the ticket window or at the Welcome Center, when you bring that ticket, and it may be showing your iPhone, it may be a piece of paper, but we'll have scanners, and it'll read the barcode now, and now it'll all go into a central system, and it'll be easier for, it'll make that line move longer if you're coming to an event at the Riverwalk. We've all stood there in line to get in sometimes. It can move all of that along, and it's going to be a much better system for attending something at the Riverwalk. So
yes, and we are investing money that's going to place some kiosk systems here in the Welcome Center, which will allow people to purchase those tickets, and not just. We're trying to go to a common ticketing system for all of the kind of town-sponsored events and our different partner organizations, the music festival and the National Repertory Orchestra and all our partners that use the Riverwalk Center.
Yeah,
so.
It's an eclectic kind of system and things, but you're, trying to move forward.
That's right. Move forward.
Yeah, show your iPhone, less paper, all
That's
that.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And a big goal for the town for the last several years, and something we've certainly talked to our viewers about before on this show, has been water sustainability. And we've spent a couple of years looking, evaluating, planning for a second water plant. We understand the need for that, and we've continued to move forward this year in our goals towards that. But we're continuing to take a hard look at water as a whole and what's that mean for Breckenridge in the future.
You know, water is a big topic around the world, and Breckenridge is very fortunate to have some of the best water rights in the West. And it is really up to our community to make sure we protect those. So we really push the conservation thing. We have a very low gallon per person use in town, but that could always be lower. And then in planning for sort of a more redundant system than what we have, currently we only have one water plant. Having a second water plant gives us some redundancy in case of emergency fire, that kind of thing. We've gone to planning on a water plant, but we're not totally satisfied with some of the bids that we've gotten for it yet. So we're sort of taking a step back, and we've hired a consultant firm to sort of help us make sure the numbers look correct and we're doing the right thing. And then in the meantime, we need to do a bunch of work to our dam up at the Goose Pasture Tarn, which is old, and there's a ton of water up there. So that's sort of become priority number one right now, is fixing the dam. And these are unfortunately big ticket items. So we need to make sure as a council and a community that we're doing the right thing. But water is always, I think, on all of our minds in the West, and in Breckenridge, we need to make sure that we guard what we own for our community.
Yeah, and this is something that will continue to be a goal for the council. This was never a quick fix.
Right.
As we go into 2017 and beyond, we're going to continue to look at what is the best options for the community, and what do we, as we look at build out and more people, and how do we take care of even those people that may be just across the street that aren't in the town but still need water. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things for the council to consider. And
I think, we've talked about, what if we had a fire in our community, and it took out a side of the community, and you think that those are kind of far-fetched ideas and examples, but we just found in the news this week that Gatlinburg, Tennessee lost half of their town in a fire that just was like a torch coming through so fast. And so it can happen, and we don't want to be alarmist about it, but I think these are, like Eric said, these are big things that we have to consider. What would our town do if something like that occurred in our town? And having a redundant water plant on the other end of town would be a huge safeguard to a scenario like that. So, big ticket items to consider for sure.
Well, why don't you hold that for a minute there, because we're going to go, we can't, these next two topics, we can't go without talking about them when it comes to goals for the town. And housing is something that I always take great pleasure in discussing, because I am so proud of this community, this council, and what we have achieved in our workforce affordable housing projects. And certainly there's a lot to talk about in 2016 when it comes to that.
Right. We literally had four, and still have 4 projects on the table for 2016. One is complete, which is Pinewood 2, and that's 45 units of rental housing. They're studios and 1 bedrooms, all 45. And a very successful project, and that's a great addition right across from the rec center on Airport Road. Then we have projects we call Denison Placer 1, which is right next to CMC, and you see that under construction right now, and that should be complete. When is that complete?
Early summer.
Early summer. Yeah. And that's 30 rental units.
Also 1
altogether.
bedroom studio.
Right. Yes. And then The rest of the ground that you see us moving dirt around on is for Denison Placer 2, which will be another, remind me of the number,
There's going to be 50
units.
for sale townhomes.
Right.
And an additional 20 or 22 rental type units,
Right.
which we haven't totally settled on whether they're one bedrooms or typically we like to see a mix so that we're meeting everybody's needs out there. But
Right. And we're talking about those units, some of them having carports, some having garages. We're going to have some, parking for, guests and, the utilization by those residents. So we're really trying to think this through and make sure that it's a very livable area. Again, when Eric talked about trying to keep our workforce here and living amongst us, we're getting, I think, better at learning what the needs. People that come here have toys. We all have lots of skis. We have our bikes. We have, we need storage, and so we're planning our housing units so that they're very livable, and so we're very proud of these projects that we have on the table. There's one more that is a joint project with the county, and it's under construction, Huron Landing, and that's right off of County Road 450. Turn up by the 7-Eleven, and it's right there on your left where the old recycling center was, and that's 26 units, and that will be complete in the summer as well,
summer
right?
Also, yes.
Yeah. So we're really serious about the housing, and we're looking at how we can get more projects going. And Eric has led the second look on this is the McCain property, where we've just restored a lot of the Blue River, beautiful area out there. It's possible that we're going to rethink and maybe put some workforce housing projects out on that property, mix it up a little bit, really try to find the places where we have land where it is conducive to having our workforce be able to live. I think I'd like to live out there, to be quite honest. Yeah. So.
Well, Mayor, I think that we want to thank our viewers too for understanding and supporting the work that needs to be done with housing, and certainly the passing of 5A this a few weeks ago sent a message, I think.
I think it's a big deal. I think it sends a message to the whole county, because it's not just a Breckenridge problem. This is a Summit County problem, is housing our workforce and our locals here in county. And Breckenridge has led the way for a long time with actually building projects, and I think 5A is going to allow the county and some of the other municipalities to really push this forward. And for Breck, it'll be about $2.2 million a year that we'll get to, just increase the amount of housing that we build for the workforce. So thank you to all of you who voted for it. And if you didn't, we hope that you will see that it was the right thing.
And really, what it allows us to do as a community is, the $2 million a year isn't going to go out and build a lot of housing, but what it does allow us to do, it allows us to get in and start building the infrastructure and the roads and getting the utilities in, so that when we do develop that, we can either work with a developer, do it ourselves, and we're keeping the cost of that project down. So I'm really excited about this next phase of Denison. I think it has some great opportunities in our community. We have a mix. I mean, none of this is set in stone. The council's still looking at it, but there's some one-bedroom townhomes, and people always like townhomes because you don't have somebody above you or below you, but some great opportunities to potentially get into a one-bedroom townhome out there for under $200,000, because the town is taking this money and helping to subsidize those projects to keep them more affordable.
Right.
And I think it's also important for people to realize that the town derives income from these projects as well. I mean, whether it's rental or whether it's for sale housing, the town has, pro formas on these projects, and we do bring income back, which then we turn around and use in the housing fund again. So this is, not just the town laying out the money and helping the workforce and not getting any kind of return. It's a two-way street on this, and I think it's important that the community understand that it is an investment.
And we do. We obviously strive to spend the taxpayers' money to the best advantage. But this housing thing is a massive problem. Yeah. And if you could just blink your eyes and have a ton of housing built for everybody, it would be great. But anecdotally, you hear from people all the time about people that are sleeping in their cars, or families that are cramped into tiny one rooms in a shared place because they just can't find anything else. And it's a problem that unfortunately, the only organization in town that can really solve this thing is the local government. Yeah. And now that we have a taxing stream, it is up to us to go out and just build as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Great. So stay tuned, and we talk about a lot of these things that are going on, and every time we talk about housing, people want to know, where do I sign up? Where do I get more information on this? And what we will ask you to do is just really stay tuned in to the town's website, our housing department. We have Lori Best, who kind of directs all of our housing projects. We will look 2 to 3 months out from the completion of a project to start talking about how we're going to get people signed up. So when people, if they're looking for rental projects on Huron Landing, we will, in February, early March, we'll start talking about whether it's a lottery system. Usually the demand is higher than the number of units we have, so we look for a very fair way to get people into those units to start off with. But we will continue to push information out to the public to keep you aware, whether we start with a pre-sales program for Denison and how early we start that. We don't have those answers yet, but when we do, we will make sure that we post those on the website and we communicate those out to the community. So, great. No Breck buzz would be complete without our parking and transportation solutions. And while we talk about this a lot, it's also probably one of the biggest things that we have undertaken in this community for a long time. And it's been a long process, but there's some milestones, and like it or not, today is one of those milestones, December 1st, that some of our paid parking kicked off in the downtown core.
This is a big day, December 1st, 2016. Yeah, we started paid parking today. After discussing paid parking in the core of town for the last at least 15 years, this current council decided it was time to pull the trigger. And the whole point of paid parking is to encourage some movement and some open spaces in the core of town so that people aren't constantly just circling the streets looking for a parking space. And while there are people that think that this is just a revenue generator for the town, this is really about solving a transportation problem we have with just massive congestion in those really busy times of the year. So we are hoping that depending on how we charge for this parking and where those fees are, that we can get about 85% utilization of our parking spaces in the core of town. So there's always a couple of spaces, so you're not constantly circling looking for a spot when you go to a retail shop or a restaurant. But the council understands there's some pain with this. There are people that have been parking and shuffling their cars every 3 hours for years and years, and this is a sea change for this community, and it is not without some heartache, and we get that. But the council felt that it was time to go down this path, so today's the day.
Yeah, I've spent with Rick there some. I've spent the last 3 days at City Market explaining paid parking to anyone who wants to listen to us. And you know, we'll just talk about a couple of the elephants in the room, which is, we've heard that some of the locals think that this is punishment for them. And that couldn't be further from what we were trying to accomplish by doing this. This is about creating parking in the core of town for all of us to use when we need to. I won't be using parking on Main Street as much as I was before. I'm going to be thinking about it. But when my husband and I want to come to Main Street for dinner, I think we will decide to pay $1.50. The first hour is 50 cents. The second hour is $1, and we'll find a space, which is really what this is all about. It's creating customer parking, of which the locals are customers. Many times the locals are customers. Eric has a big customer business for lunch. And they're customers, and we hope that they'll say that it's worth 50 cents to find parking near your restaurant. That's what it's all about. It's also about getting the workforce to park in the locations that we have designated for them. I know that we've issued a lot of parking permits, and still, the first place people look for parking is Main Street. They'll use the permit if they can't find a parking place on Main Street. Well, I think now it's going to be the other way around. You'll go to the Sawmill lot and you'll see if there's a parking place where your permit is good, and then if not, you have options up on French, you have options at Tiger Dredge. So it is a complex system. It's complex in part because our parking in Breckenridge is tucked away in all kinds of different places, and frankly, we're proud of that in our town. We have a historic town, and that's the way it's going to park itself. And so we're not going to try to change that, but we are going to try to get better utilization. Get the cars where they need to be, open some things up so that when customers, including the locals, when they're customers, can find places on Main and Ridge and some of our most popular core of town lots. So.
And this doesn't exist in a vacuum. Paid parking is not just the only thing we're doing. No. We have beefed up our transit offerings, the bus service in town. We've added another $1 million+ in bus service this year. We're doing a bunch of stuff with walkability and lighting, and for a community like this that is active and we revolve around recreation and outdoor lifestyle, we need to make it so that people can walk a couple of blocks either from where they're staying when they visit us, or if you live in the community, hopefully you can catch a bus, walk to a bus, catch a bus, walk to where you're going in town, and really embrace the sort of healthy lifestyle we have. To have to drive to right in front of where you work is really not what this place is about. And bike to work, ride the bus to work, walk to a restaurant. That's sort of what we're hoping people will latch on to. And we know the locals are smart. They'll figure out the best way to get around, the cheapest way to get around. And we feel like the guests will maybe not drive the car, maybe take the shuttles from the lodging more than they do now. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and we hope that rather than just being negative and angry about it, that people really seize this and say, yeah, this is the right thing for the town. This is the right thing for our community. And they'll embrace it. And none of us love this. None of us love paid parking. I mean, honestly, it's just not something that you say, yay, paid parking, but it is a solution. That's what this is. This is a solution. So,
I think it's worth talking about the lift ticket tax for a moment and where that kicks in. And that's the other bit of confusion that's out there. And we may see some remission of the lift ticket tax starting in December, is my understanding. But that would be the first. Mm-hmm. And there's been kind of a misnomer about, is this what the lift ticket tax paid for? Your paid parking in the trolley, the transit? No. The answer is that the lift ticket tax has not paid for any of that to date. It's been the town. It's been that we're committed to finding the solutions to this problem, and we've reached into the town's budget, the general fund, to pay for all of the improvements that have been done to this point in time. Now, as we go forward, we're not done. There's other solutions that we need to seek, and that includes the big discussion around net new parking in the core of town, of which there is active discussions going on, and that's where the utilization of the lift ticket tax will come into play as a part of those discussions, and we're committed to wrestling this to the ground,
Yes,
whatever
we
it
are.
takes. And so, again, we're going to start as early as Tuesday, no, a week from Tuesday, our next council meeting, to get to discuss some of this and find out where we stand and go forward. When we are looking forward on this and getting this done.
And the discussion is not if to build a parking structure. The discussion is where to build a parking structure. And I think that's where some of the misunderstanding is. I think early on there was talk about FLOT, but the consultants that the town hired, who were internationally known and well-respected, has said that unless you do a lot of work to Park Avenue, FLOT is not the place to put a bunch of cars. So the council has really been trying to reach out and examine some other properties. And I know it seems like it's been slow and we're not building parking, but we're not building parking because we don't believe in sort of the original idea of where parking should belong. We have some other ideas about it that we think will benefit the community to a much greater extent. And that's where we are. And we're in those discussions right now. And hopefully in the next couple of months, we can have a direction and a plan so that, when the weather turns, we can get on this and start getting some net new parking in the community.
We could probably sit here and talk for
Yes, we can.
3 to 5 hours on, what may seem slow to some, as you said, but of actually everything that is currently being worked on, that has been done, and what we are doing moving forward. I would encourage you, people that are interested in more information, to go to breckforward.com. That will link you right to our parking and transportation solutions page. And it talks about, there's so much. Technology is our next step. We are currently interviewing companies that is going to look at transit technology that will tell people when they're standing at a transit stop how long before the next bus arrives there, through GPS signals that are utilized out there. We're looking at improving our stops. We're looking at what our highest use transit stops and where we might need some shelters to make that experience just a little better for those people, how we can improve the pull-offs, the lighting at those transit stops to make them feel a little safer for the users out there. So many areas in town, those of you that have been around a while, you may notice, even though dark sky is critical to our community and we respect that, and everything we do is dark sky compliant, we are looking at some better, more efficient LED lighting that will downcast and spread a little wider pattern to link our critical walkways up. And we've installed a number of those up Village Road, up 4 O'Clock Road, out on Airport Road, in areas that we know we have high pedestrian volume. You're going to see improved lighted pathways that are operational, and we still have a couple more that we want to get completed this month. So there have been a lot of things, and you can see a lot of that if you get on our website and look at that. And I guarantee you all that we will continue to be talking about all of these things throughout 2017, because there is no single solution.
No, there is not.
To this. And there's a lot of things we need to do, because each one of them has a little bit of an impact. I mean, we have been talking for years and listening to a segment of our community in what we call Upper Warriors Mark. Yeah. We decide to add a transit route when we think that there is enough volume and enough users in an area that it will warrant and maintain so many riders per hour average that it has to do. And so it takes a while sometimes to do that. Well, we've pulled the trigger, this council did, and we're going to start kind of a contract service for a 2-year period to see if it warrants that ridership in an area called Upper Warriors Mark, and that'll start December 10th. And again, that's another way of getting people out of their cars and utilizing a shared transportation system. So, yep. Any final remarks as we close out 2016 here and get ready to move forward?
Well, I'm really proud of our community. I'm proud that as hard as change is, our community is so resilient. And I have heard in the last few days more people talking about walking more, taking the bus more. And, for a town that, has the footprint that we have is what we have. We are surrounded by beautiful mountains and open space, and we are not going to change our footprint much. So we have to do a good job with what we have. And I really feel like our community embraces that. And sometimes we stomp our feet a little, and we argue with each other, and we debate what's the best way to get there, and that's certainly a healthy thing to do. But in the end, when a decision needs to be made, we make the decision, and our community rallies around it, and they come back, and this community does nothing but get stronger and stronger. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud to be living in a community that thinks that way and behaves that way. So, great 2016, and I look forward to much more in 2017. It's hard to believe that's the year we're looking at. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
That was great. And happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah. And I want to thank both of you for your commitment and dedication to the work we're doing here. Obviously, this is you have other full-time jobs and lives to do, but it takes a lot of your time when we're doing what we're doing, and I think the town does a great job of being out there, and we're trying to do everything we can to communicate what's going on to people, but that takes a lot of time and effort. And so I appreciate that from both of you, and I appreciate your involvement in staying tuned to what's going on in Breckenridge, and we'll look forward to coming back in 2017 with our next episode of Breck Buzz. Thank you.